House Speaker Nancy Pelosi and other lawmakers met with Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelenskyy in Kyiv yesterday to reaffirm U.S. support for Ukraine. Meanwhile, Ukrainian officials are still working to evacuate more civilians from a massive steel plant in the port city of Mariupol. On Sunday, more than 100 civilians escaped the plant. ABC's Marcus Moore joins me live now from Kyiv, Ukraine, with more on that. Marcus, let's start with Mariupol because people have been stuck there for months with limited food and water even. So what's the latest there?
Diane, it has been a focal point of a lot of the heavy fighting that we've seen here in Ukraine. We know that over the weekend, according to officials here in Ukraine, that about 100 people, mostly women and children, were able to escape during a ceasefire that was negotiated between Ukraine, the Russians, the Red Cross, as well as another agency, the UN, for example. So there was progress in terms of getting people out, but we understand that soon after those people were evacuated, the shelling resumed again, and it gives you a sense of the unpredictable and really the volatile nature of what's been happening there in that part of the country as this war goes on. The hope was that today they would be able to evacuate people from other parts of Mariupol, not just the steel plant that we have focused so much of our attention on, and the hope is that those evacuations can continue. But Diane, as you know, the fighting has not stopped, and it speaks to what those people have been enduring not only for the past several weeks of this war, but what they will endure for the days ahead is what it will seem.
And Marcus, House Speaker Nancy Pelosi met with Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelenskyy in Kyiv, and then with leaders in Poland as well. What's the goal of these meetings?
Well, these meetings are two-part. I mean, they're part symbolic, but also part strategic. The Ukrainians have been asking for more aid, ammunition, not only humanitarian aid, but also military aid, so ammunition, weapons, and those are the things that are being negotiated between U.S. officials who come here to Ukraine, the types of weapons that they will receive, and then, of course, the timeline. So these meetings are critical. They're highly important to the Ukrainians as they look to the days ahead and how they can continue to fight the Russians and find success in hoping to not only protect the country, the territory that they are in charge of, but also reclaiming some of the towns and cities that have been taken by the Russians in the midst of this two-month-long war.
Now, Marcus, you were embedded with the Ukrainian Territorial Defense Force in Kyiv this weekend. What are their priorities now that most of the fighting is focused in the eastern part of the country?
Yeah, Diane, that was a major victory for the Ukrainians in the midst of this conflict. They were successfully able to turn the Russians around, who they got within just a few miles of the capital city. And so that was a major win for them, and it gave the Ukrainians the encouragement and the fuel, if you will, they needed to continue this fight. So now that the Kyiv appears to be in the clear, at least from any ground attacks, they are continuing to maintain a defensive posture, and Diane, they're continuing to train just in case the Russians try to come back to Kyiv.
Now, our latest ABC News Washington Post poll shows most Americans favor increasing support for Ukraine. 55% say the U.S. should provide more military support for Ukraine, even as 80% say they are concerned about a wider war or the possible use of nuclear weapons by Russia. So what do we know about how Ukraine is using this aid from the U.S.?
Ukraine is using that aid right away. We're talking about the ammunition that they have been calling for, as well as some of the long-range artillery artillery that they have been requesting that will not only allow them to defend their positions, but also perhaps carry out counterattacks against Russia. And some of that equipment, like the U.S. howitzers, they arrived even this weekend, and fighters were being trained on how to use that equipment that will be critical not only for Ukraine to use it in the short term of this conflict, of this war, but also in the long term, depending on how long it stretches out. And Diane, as you know, there are no signs that this war will be ending anytime soon.
All right, Marcus Moore, we appreciate it. Marcus, thank you.
Hi, everyone. George Stephanopoulos here. Thanks for checking out the ABC News YouTube channel. If you'd like to get more videos, show highlights, and watch live event coverage, click on the right over here to subscribe to our channel. And don't forget to download the ABC News app for breaking news alerts. Thanks for watching.